All right, we got a good group on here right now, so we'll kind of get started. And then, as I had mentioned in the email, I'd had you guys probably seen him all around LinkedIn, but I had initially had Keith Maxwell from the connection off of LinkedIn to come and do this presentation, but chatted with him a few weeks ago, and then haven't been able to connect with him since. So I thought we would continue with the conversation, only we would just do it kind of as a roundtable discussion. And so I put together a few bullet point items. Like all of us on a Monday, I just started at about 3:45. So we'll run through a few bullet items. Actually, I'd found he had written an article and posted it on LinkedIn. So I took a couple of his bullet point items to kind of start with based on his article that he'd written. So the first one was basically kind of one, find your and actually, I'll preface it with Nolan said it probably best the other day when I said it's on marketing and advertising. He goes, "You don't have to do anything; just answer the damn phone." That's pretty much where we're at today, right? I mean, it is that crazy of a time, but is it going to continue the rest of this year, or is it going to, be slowing down? And all of a sudden, we got to kind of become relevant again, and not more than just picking up the phone. So that's kind of what we'll brainstorm today about. And so the first one on here was a market emphasis and or market niche. So kind of marketing your main niche to begin with. So finding, what are you good at, right? I mean, number one thing when you get that license and you get that stamp is don't practice outside your expertise, right? And so that's one of the things we got to kind of make sure we emphasis today. And Landon talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Landon was actually going to jump on tonight if he wasn't too busy, but Landon talked about it a couple of weeks ago, right? If smaller firm, how do you gain that experience? And that's or kind of a sole proprietor, right? Just working with a larger firm. And so maybe you reach out to other survey firms, and that's kind of where we are even today, right? A lot of survey firms working together to get jobs done. And I mean, so much of it today is I can't get it done. And you guys probably heard me talk about it a lot. If you can't get it done, have a Rolodex, right? Have a Rolodex of numbers and send it off to the next guy who you think can get it done, because we still have an industry to serve. And if we don't service that industry, that's where all these bad comments come about the engineers taking over, or no need for surveyors anymore because they can't get the work done. So the biggest thing would be just making sure we continue to service that industry and not get all of these guys, developers, angry because we can't get their work done. So anybody, I mean, outside of kind of highlighting, your market niche, what can we kind of add to this and brainstorm on that? And I think ultimately I'd like to try to turn this into an article. If any of you guys follow me, I'm the editor for our Nevada publication, survey publication. And so I turn a lot of the Geoholics stuff into articles, and I'll turn some of these Mentoring Mondays into articles. So I'd like to see if we can brainstorm some other ideas that we can make into this a really good article. So I'll kind of just turn it over to the first bullet point item in a roundtable discussion. Anything, Kent, from your new firm or your years of experience as far as business development type stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll backtrack to the very first thing you said, and that is, just because of the nature of the market and the world we live in right now, it's easy to think that you don't have to do any marketing really, and all you have to do is pick up the phone. I definitely don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But I think, everybody has a little different perspective on that, even whether you're, a 1 or 2 person shop versus a 500 person shop. And it just so happens that the company I'm in kind of falls in between there. And like, if I picked up the phone, if I answered every single phone call, I'll bet you maybe 20% of those calls may be projects that I would be interested in taking on.
Sure.
Which is very interesting, right? Because just like you said, Trent, there's 80% of the other 80% of the phone calls that I may not be interested in, but I know there's other people out there that would be super excited to have those opportunities. So that's when, just like Trent said, I've got a list of, half a dozen folks, other surveyors that I respect in my market, and I just immediately start doling out those opportunities to them. So it definitely is that way right now. You really don't have to do much marketing, but I still think it's important to do marketing to get the work that you want to get, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's good. Go for it, George. You just threw that in the chat, but go for it. Kind of what you had said in your chat there.
Okay. Professional organizations. And I've got to say, I've been a member of now since 1978. And that's pretty close to the very beginning. Over the course of those years, even before I was licensed, I developed friendships and relationships with other professionals that I was able to go to and ask for advice and help on projects. And to be honest, even work with other firms together. I mean, they're not getting paid for what I'm doing, but they don't mind helping because it's good for all of us.
Correct. Yeah, it goes back to that, service in the industry for sure. I'll put Nolan on the spot only because he's 6 months into business and
10, but who's counting?
I know. I was trying to be nice. But what are you doing as a new business starting out? What do you kind of focus in marketing on?
So besides the simple, like we talked about and joked around, just answering the phone, a lot of my beginning jobs came from, the referral process like you were talking about. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit around and wait for business to come to me. So my big thing with marketing was obviously cold calls. And then the biggest factor in starting out, everybody can do a boundary survey, but my niche has always been altas and topos.
Yeah.
But you got to start, you got to have something on the books. So I went to every county surveyor in my chapter area pretty much, or touching my county. So it's about 9 counties, and went to every county surveyor and put my name on the list. Because
as a referral,
as a referral, because
yeah, okay.
Most people don't even know what a surveyor is, so they call the county surveyor thinking he can do work. Well, 90% of the time they probably can, but county surveyors nowadays don't do it. They're all in their 50s, 60s and using it as a retirement package.
Yeah.
So just putting my name on a list and just people going down a list, making a call and picking up the phone, sending a brochure and my contact information and a letter out to every engineering, architecture, attorney in my area. I probably sent about 200 letters out, and most people are like, that's so old school, but you got to make contact one way or the other, whether it's going in there and shaking hands or starting out with a letter. And people take that and run with it, and it means a lot because you're putting yourself out there and you're not just sitting back waiting for someone to find you.
Yeah, I'll tell you, obviously I started June 1st, 2008. So bottom of the economy, all I was doing was trying to grab whatever we could at the time. And so I spent thousands of dollars. I put together a 50-page book that highlighted all different projects within and so I didn't send that out until about 2009, early 2010, after a couple of, kind of a year and a half, 18 months in business. I put this 50-page book together and I mailed it to every architect, engineer, person that I could get off of a list, and just mailed. It cost me like $15 to print the book, and it cost me like another $6 to mail them. And I sent out hundreds of them. And so again, it was one of those things like you say, the letter is kind of old school, but it also is that first impression, right? To show off your company. And so even just a simple trifold, being able to send out a simple trifold that has highlights and company information, I think that somebody can just kind of file away is that good first impression. So
I think kind of like what you said with the, you got 50 projects, or, you have all these projects to show off. Another thing is, for example, for myself, I'm working on right-of-way engineering next. Yeah. So as soon as I hit my pre-qualification for right-of-way engineering, there's another letter that goes out to everybody that either, we're second guessing it the first time, or, we're waiting for something for me to, specifically be able to give them a reason to choose me for my professional services. So,
yeah. That's awesome. George, go for it.
Well, another thing that works really well is if you're a survey only business, find yourself a way to make relations with engineering firms that don't want to pay for surveying. I mean, the firm I worked at for almost 25 years, that was their main niche. We did more work for engineering firms that had no surveyors, and they were still doing construction jobs, which was our main bailiwick, was construction staking, along with all the other things that surveyors do. But that was where we really made our money, and it paid big dividends. I mean, it was easy. You had good relationships with them. You did the topo work, you did the boundary survey work beforehand for them. So you ended up getting all your information back after they designed everything. And it was pretty seamless operation, really.
Yeah, good point. I saw Ben. Go for it, Ben. Looks
I
like
was going to say, just finding what is true to yourself and your own business, and just opening the door. So whether it's a pamphlet, a threefold, or a letter, whatever you are confident in, and something to start the dialogue. And you won't get response on everything back, but you may get some response. And just being true to yourself and getting out there is important.
yeah, for sure. And of course, I mean, obviously, number one thing, right, is just word of mouth and making sure that again, one, just pick up the phone so that they know that they can call you and you at least answer the phone. But hey, maybe today I can't get to it, or in the next couple of weeks I can't get to it, but maybe on the next job, give me a call, right? But you have that established, that relationship, that you want to work with them. You just don't necessarily have the time now. So anybody?
An interesting side note to this, when I first started surveying, there was a huge debate over whether it was really legit for you to put your company logo on the door of your truck.
Yeah.
I mean, it was to the point where most of the firms drove unmarked vehicles. And there's a tremendous benefit from having 15 crews out driving trucks all over town with your name on the door. I mean, people see that and, oh, well, they must be good. They're all over the place.
Correct. Yeah, I was gonna so that was going to be one of the other bullet point items towards the end about branding and that kind of stuff. Yeah. The next one, so anybody else want to kind of chime in on that particular one? I don't know if anybody else
had his hand up.
Who had his hand up?
Kent.
Oh, Kent, go for it, Kent.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I was going to add to it, we were talking about, having a Rolodex of, other surveyors in your market that you can, pass off work to that you can't maybe get to or whatever reason. And, I think a lot of people just by nature are hesitant to do that because they look at it as if they're, obviously they're giving work away, they're losing an opportunity, screw that guy, why would I help him out type thing. And that's like the opposite way of how you, what your mindset should be, because first of all, it comes back tenfold. And I know, Trent knows this better than anybody. If when you recommend, another local surveyor to get the work, trust me, it's going to come back. There's going to be a project comes up that maybe they don't have the capacity to, perform, and they're going to call you and they're going to return the favor. And it's also happened to me in the past, actually pretty often, where, somebody will call and I'll just be honest with them, like, hey, I can't get to it, but I can recommend somebody for you. And they're so thankful that you're willing to recommend somebody that you trust to do the job for them. And then the next time they have a job, they're going to call you anyways and be like, hey, this is so-and-so. Remember, I called you before, you couldn't get to it, you recommended somebody, I appreciate that, but because of your honesty and your integrity, I want you to do this job type thing. So there's benefits to it, that's for sure.
Yeah, and kind of like what you talked about before, that's old school mentality too, right? I mean, that was 60s, 70s, 80s. Nobody's out to help anybody at that point. So go for it, George.
And sorry.
Oh no, you're good. Go, Kent.
Go for it.
No, I was just going to add, I know somebody, I can't remember who mentioned, first impressions. And again, Trent, I think you mentioned it, and Nolan mentioned it, and Ben probably mentioned it as well, because we all realize the importance of that. You only get one chance to make a first impression, and that impression can come in so many different ways, and it's not just, the trifold marketing brochure you send out. It's the trucks that your guys are driving or you're driving, if you're driving, piece of crap trucks, that's a first impression, unfortunately, I mean, again, I'll use Trent as an example for probably pretty much everything, because he and I think the exact same way. Anytime I see Trent, pictures on, any social media or anything like that, it's always pictures of his truck and the equipment set up, and not his truck, but his guys' trucks, whatever. And it just always looks very, very sharp. When you pull up on any project site, construction site, boundary site, topo site, whatever, and if you're driving a really shitty piece of crap truck, right away the impressions would be like, well, who have I hired here? These guys are a bunch of jamokes type thing. And it's really, it starts from the top down. I mean, you want to portray yourself as being a professional at every single level, whether you're the owner of the company or you're the second guy in a survey crew. Those guys that are even working out in the field and they're wearing your company shirts and stuff like that. We had Brian Owens on the podcast here a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about, those guys that work out in the field, or guys that are going to meetings. I mean, wear that company logo like a badge of honor, and I absolutely love that. And that's, if you can get everybody in your company thinking that way, you've got a really good thing going.
Yeah, it's about building authority, because you want the client's going to have to trust you in order to pay you for your services. So they're not going to trust somebody who's doing it half-ass.
Yeah, good point. Go for it, George, and then James, I see you're up too.
Okay, the other thing that comes out of this referring jobs to somebody else, if you aren't really capable of getting it done timely and correctly, is you develop a relationship with these other professionals. And guess what? You get a job and you notice that, hey, they did something right next door. You call them up, and a lot of times they'll give you information that they've garnered to help you with your project. And it's just an exchange of data. It's just professional courtesy, and it pays big dividends. It really does. Tenfold is probably a modest estimate of what you get back.
Yeah, I love it. I love James. I love your comment in the chat too about the old school's better, right? You got to open a letter. You can't just hit delete on an email. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right in your saying. And just following on from the gentleman just before me, yeah, recommend other surveyors, but you'd know yourself when you get a phone call from someone, they're just shopping around for price. They're not going to go if you're not the cheapest. So what I tend to do is recommend the guy down the road that does it cheap. Let him work 6 or 7 days a week, work his ass off. He's the one who's driving around in the 30-year-old car going through a divorce. Well, let him take the bottom feeders, and then you can charge the fee that you want, and then you can keep it up high. So, you can have a quality of life, pick up less work, make more money, and deal with people that want the job done properly rather than the tire kickers. So,
yeah. Oh, that's a great point, James. I love that. Anybody else want to hit on that topic?
I'll just agree with James on that, because it got to the point where there was always me and another guy, quote unquote, bidding for small lot surveys. And I was just like, there's no way, like, you're making money off of that. And to a point, it got like everybody would call for a lot survey and be like, hey, I heard this guy's doing it for this much, call him. Like, just load his schedule up with those surveys if he's really doing it for him. It sounds terrible to say it that way, but if someone's going to do that work, someone's going to do that work. And that's his niche. My niche is not to be cheap. His is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he can always say no.
Yeah, absolutely.
He can say no. I think Nolan's got a young family. You'd sooner be spending time with his kids than out measuring on the weekend. It's just a better way to be.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I love it. Anybody else want to chime in on that one? My next one was real estate agent partnerships. So yeah, look at everybody chuckle. So
speaking about people that don't want to pay for surveys.
Yeah, no kidding.
I will tell you, I had wrote one in the Travers about, it's simply answering the phone. It could be a real estate agent, could be this, that, and the other, right? I did get an email back. It's actually the only time I've ever gotten an email back from as being the editor in the position so far in the last couple of years. And it was like, I would never answer the phone to a realtor. They used other words, but I put the bottom of the barrel, right? They're the bottom of the barrel, and they're just kind of, too shady, this, that, and the other. And, I'll never do business with them. But I think honestly, in today's world, more so on the business, on the commercial side of things, right? I think you still have your, like you say, your residential real estate realtors looking for that cheap lot survey for their client. And then I think that's always going to happen. But if you dismiss every real estate agent, right? I mean, all of a sudden he's on the phone and he's now the first line of defense for that developer who wants to get something done. And that first phone call is just for an Alta, right? And so I just, one of the things I kind of wanted to be cautious about is everybody, feels like real estate's agents and we shouldn't do business with them type of thing. But I think as business is evolving, that business model's changing. And so I just wanted to kind of have a conversation about real estate agents in general. And I know Landon just jumped on and Stacy's on. So I know Stacy's new into business as well, but Landon, this rolls right into your topic. If you had a chance to, see, there you go. Rolls right into your topic. Cause I think a lot of your business model actually currently is real estate agents. Right. And so I don't know if you came in, where you came in there, but kind of wanted to have a conversation about surveyors and real estate agents. And perfect that you jump on right at the right time.
All right. Yeah, no, I could talk about that a little bit if you want. So hi everybody. What's up? So I'd say probably, I don't know, 90% of our business is commercial real estate. Okay. So when I say commercial, what I mean is non-residential. Okay. So commercial, industrial, ag. Some things that make us, I don't want to say unique, but that make us a little different from your typical surveying firm is we do almost zero construction staking. And that's intentional. So one of the things that happens, and this if you work at a firm that does both kinds of surveying, is when somebody's trying to pour concrete, the boundary topo goes to the back seat, right? And the staking gets done first. So one of the reasons we built our business that way is because it allows us to be responsive to clients on the mapping side. So we don't do any staking. So it's almost all land development or real estate transactions, and it's almost no construction. So, and we basically do zero government work. We have a couple friends in government. When they call us, if they really twist arms, we will do some government work, but that's not really what we're built to do. So what that means is we are dealing with real estate agents a lot. I would say, I don't know, 50% of the time I'm on the phone with my main point of contact is the real estate broker or the attorney or paralegal, one of the two. So let me give you the good news and the bad news about this. And this is just based on our last 2 years in business. So when I started the business, here's part of the reason we started the business. So I do a lot of expert witness work. When I say a lot more than your typical surveyor does. We work on several cases a year, and I'd say it's probably somewhere between 10 to 20% of our business. So we have a handful of land attorneys, that we work with, two of them that we work with on a pretty regular basis. And so here's part of why I started RH was because when you're an expert witness, the problem has already happened, right? So you're getting called in post disaster. And that is really frustrating because you'll find that in almost, 95% of the real estate lawsuits are 100% completely preventable, and they're almost always preventable with a good boundary survey. And so one of the things that was really frustrating for me is being involved in all this expert witness work and just realizing, man, so much of this is just preventable if people would just get a good survey before escrow closes, right? So I had this fabulous idea that in hindsight was totally idealistic and way overly optimistic. But so the kind of the idea was, hey, let's start a company that helps people, identify and fix these problems before escrow closes. That was kind of the whole goal. And so that's basically how we launched the company. And the first 6 months we were in business, I beat the street. We went and talked to, I don't know how many real estate agents I talked to, calling local real estate agencies, getting lined up as a speaker, going in and giving them the pitch, talking to the local realtors associations. I talked to, no joke, 200 plus real estate agents and brokers. Why do you need a survey? When is it important to get one? No. Okay, so here's what I found out. They don't care. They just don't. They don't care. And I've beat my head on that a lot. We've had some conversations with some different. I've talked to some real estate agents, and a lot of people think that I like to bash on title companies and real estate agents. That's not true. What I do like to do though is acknowledge the realities, right? So the reality is title insurance covers way less than people think, almost always. And the little gal that's selling you the title insurance either doesn't understand that or has been trained it's like any other insurance company, right? Like you don't find out that your title insurance doesn't cover something until there's a claim. That's when you find out, right? So the other thing that I've recognized now, I don't blame the little gal selling the title insurance policy. She gets paid to sell title insurance policies, right? So that is her financial incentive. And so I've come to realize because I've spent I've laid awake at night thinking about this challenge with real estate brokers. And just so you guys know, and I don't mind telling you, you can get on our website and find it, but you can get on there. Under the contact menu, there's a little, what we call a boundary land title quick check. Like if you are a commercial real estate agent in California, you can go on our website, fill out a form, literally takes you 5 minutes, and we will deliver you what we call a quick check. And it just tells you, when was the property last surveyed? Are the corner monuments set? What do we think the risk level is for encroachments? And then down at the bottom, we just tell you in either big red print or big green print, we think this is a high risk transaction and you should work with the seller to get a survey, or we think it's a low risk transaction. We always recommend a survey, but it may not be critical in this case. And for 6 months, I pled my case. And in 2 years, I can count the number of quick checks I've done on 2 hands. Now, I want you to think about what that means for a minute. That means I can't get a real estate broker to, for free, have me tell them if their client should get a survey or not. Now, I'm not saying they're wicked. I'm not saying they're fraudulent. I'm not saying, I don't fully understand the motive, but that's the data point for you guys, right? I can't give away that expert help.
It's because you're not paying them commission.
Right. Okay. So I thought a lot about this. Thank you, Ben. Yeah. So I thought a lot about it. And here's the conclusion I come to, because it's not possible that everybody in real estate is evil, right? I think there are some evil people. If you read the case law, there are some evil real estate agents, but they're not all evil. And we have some friends. My partner, Danny, is good friends with a gal that is a real estate agent. So we have friends in the industry. So here's what I've been able to figure out. And I would love to get some feedback from you guys, because I don't have it all figured out. But look, the way we pay real estate brokers in the United States is really dumb, right? It's really dumb. We pay them on commission. And so here's what that means. What that means is they have every financial incentive to place you in the first property you look at. And if they can't place you in the first property, they're trying to place you in the second property they look at, right? Because the more properties they show you, in essence, the lower their hourly wage becomes, right? And after I figured this out, I looked back at when my wife and I were buying a house, and just so you guys know, so we looked at, we looked at 10 houses before we finally bought the house we're in, but we got really close to buying a house around the corner. And I paid for the appraisal and I paid for the inspection, right? And so of course the inspection comes back and there was problems, right? The fence is falling down, there was wiring issues, there were some problems. Right. And I was in a buyer's market. It was in the middle of the downturn. Nobody was buying homes. So I told my real estate agent, I said, hey, I'm willing to buy this house, but the seller's got to bring the price down by the 15 grand or whatever to make up the issues in the construction report. And my real estate agent flipped their lid. They were ticked. Why you got to be difficult? Why, this is, there's nothing in this report that's that big of a deal. Well, I didn't understand at the time. I was totally caught off guard by their reaction. Right. Well, now I know why I was getting that reaction, right? They were tired of dragging me and my wife around to look at houses. Right. And here we were pretty close to closing a sale, and I got cold feet. right? So, so what am I doing? Like, how do I get around that? So look, we haven't stopped the education effort. We're still trying to educate brokers and real estate agents. But what I've realized is part of what this means is I got to get direct to the buyer and I got to get direct to the lender with my marketing message, because the broker doesn't care. In fact, the brokers have a financial incentive to not find any problems that might tank a deal. You do a survey that finds a problem that tanks a deal, they're ticked. Right? Now, there may be a handful of real estate brokers that are out there that are really looking out for the best interest of their client, even if it means they got to show them more properties than they want. I haven't met that broker yet in 2 years. And look, I don't blame the brokers. I want to be really clear about this. They're not evil. This is the way we have decided to pay them, right? Like, it's a dumb system, right? Like, I think a much better system. So here's where I think the model is. What these people should do is they should hire somebody like Ben to do a basic due diligence check on every parcel they get serious about, just like you pay the appraiser and the building inspector. No different, right? You should be paying a surveyor to look at land title and boundary issues on, you get into escrow, you hire Ben to go look at boundary and land title issues, right? And my problem is, for a long time, I was trying to talk the broker into doing that. They don't have any incentive to do it. They have zero incentive to do it, right? So there you go. That's my spiel about marketing to brokers. So I'd love to get some feedback. I don't have it all figured out. That's just my experience.
Yeah, I have some feedback. Sorry, I'll let you go, Ben.
No, I was going to say the lenders should hire in-staff surveyors to do that kind of due diligence. So the lenders have a guy that goes out and can look at the documents, look at the information, and then do that due diligence for the lender. Go ahead, Stacy.
So I have been trying to put these two together for about 2 years now. And it's so funny. If you look at my website, aklands.com, I also have a realtor's license. I got it about 2 years ago. And I talked to Landon about this last year. How am I going to make this work? How am I going to help these brokers and realtors figure out what's what? Well, Landon's absolutely right. They just don't care. They do not want you to say anything to them that will kill the deal. It's just, and if there is a problem with the survey, all they're going to say is, well, sue the surveyor. My specialty isn't contracting, right? This is my specialty. That's why we hired a PLS. So, as I go about this business, I decided to do 2 LLCs, one real estate and one land surveying, because they need to be separate. That was per lender's advice. So I don't mix the two and have liability between the two. My next effort was, of course, figuring out that they don't care. So what I've decided to do is I'm just telling people about this, because I get calls from realtors all the time. And if they want an as-built, that's great. But what I try to do is go, hey, you want to come work for me? You want to come to my side? You want to explore something new? So let's not do commission anymore. Let's charge for each piece of a real estate transaction. Better yet, screw real estate. Let's just do development. So as much as people hate real estate, I'm also from Alaska. There is so much development. And if land surveyors could get with the developer, subdivide first of all, give them a pretty good quote on development, because we understand wetlands and section line easements and public land orders, especially in Alaska, there's these items. We could put that in with our quote for a preliminary subdivision design, do the subdivision, and then sell the real estate. To me, I'm just like, let's just keep this process going, because the surveyor stops at the as-built, right? I guess you got the plot plan, you got the as-built, but they make some money selling those $500, $600, $7,000 houses on the little, 0.1 acre lot. So that's my 2 cents into it. And a lot of people that I just talked to someone on the phone. Hey, why didn't you hire hey, would you have liked to had a land survey before you bought this plot of land? Partly is Landon, title insurance sells title. They insure title. They do not insure anything else. And specifically on Alaska's title commitments, they have these wonky commitments going, well, we're not going to let you know if there's a section line easement or an Iditarod trail or this old RS 24477 trail. Actually, we're not going to say if it's not, but it probably is there. Okay, you're in like the middle of Midtown Anchorage. There's no Iditarod trail, but they will not say that there's not, because there's so much discrepancy, and you would have to have a surveyor look into it, and there's, you know, liability to their statements. So I've been bringing this up to a lot of folks as I talk to them, because I don't have time to market, like you guys are saying. So I'm just putting this out there on every person I have, every person I talk to. Hey, what do you think about this? You know, me doing this for you or getting involved in this way? Because I don't want to sell houses, but I want to be a part of that development. So Landon, that's where I'm at right now with the community.
So I'm not crazy, Stacy.
That's right.
I wonder. I'm glad somebody else is telling me. Like, I worry sometimes that maybe I'm crazy. So it's good to know I might not be completely crazy, only a little bit. No, that's great feedback, Stacy. Thank you.
So
Absolutely.
Going back up in the chat for Caitlin, she says basically, you know, great that the real estate agent calls you, but how many of you are actually, like she says, working with the owner and just getting your contract with the owner rather than real estate? I'll tell you, like, and for me, ours is, you know, 100% basically on the, you know, the buyer or seller or whatever, not with the agent. So I'm just curious where everybody else's contracts lie. Are they with an agent? Are they with the buyer or seller?
Usually it's with the buyer or seller or the developer.
Yeah, exactly.
Buyer and seller. And I will say one thing for Landon's benefit, I agree with him wholeheartedly, but I will tell you that the majority of real estate agents that are making the big bucks are not showing houses, they're listing them. And they're getting a commission on the listing, and they're not doing a damn thing. And they're a lot smarter than we are, because they're getting a percentage of the sale, and that percentage is way more than what we're charging for the damn survey.
Yeah.
If we even have time to do it.
They're in the development. A lot of those big companies, they're in the development. So they have those subdivisions that are 100 parcels, and they put houses on it, and they're listing every single one of those $100,000, you know, dollar houses or whatever. Yeah. So that's where their money is. That's where the big realtors are.
So your houses are a lot less expensive than ours.
Oh no, they're way more than that.
You know, 500,000 for that.
No, I meant like 500 and 600.
Go for it, Caitlin.
So part of what we've had to learn is that the only time that the realtors will call us is if there is a problem. And part of the reason why they don't reach out to other survey companies is because in the Kansas City area, most of the big firms are 12 to 14 weeks out minimum. So there's no way that they can get a survey done before closing, especially if you have cash buyers or people that are trying to close in 30 days.
Right.
So our goal is to be able to meet that timeline. So our turnaround is 5 to 7 days most of the time. Nice. 5 to 10, 5 to 15. Like that's what we aim for. But mostly what we do is boundary or section breakdown kinds of stuff. We're not a big firm. There's two of us. So we don't do altas very often. We sub out work for other surveying firms. We've done some for some engineering firms, but mostly for other surveying firms when they don't have the people to get it done. But in terms of realtors, title companies, all of that, I mean, we're on 5 or 6 different title companies, referral lists, and quite a few real estate agents lists, the brokerage list, as the people that can get it done quickly when they have issues. And that's really helped us build our business to where we are right now. And we're going on 3 years out of the gate right now.
Nice.
So that's really where we've had to be, is to be the people that can get it done quickly and not trying to undercut all of the other smaller firms by any means. All the bigger companies, or most of the bigger companies in the Kansas City area, are a minimum of $1,500 just to come to your property. when you can do a boundary survey on anything that's newer than 2000, and it shouldn't take you more than a couple hours to look at it, to be able to see things, to get it done, when you can have somebody in the field and somebody in the office drawing it up at the same time. We've had such problems with the realtors who tell their clients, oh yeah, you own all the way back through this green space. And then every single client says, well, my realtor told me this, or my realtor told me that. So some of them are finally getting to the point where they're like, you know what, you should probably have a survey done before, just so that you know where it is. And I don't tell you that, but that's maybe a handful out of 100. So.
Gotcha. Well,
they don't want you to find those problems.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's why they won't recommend it to
Yeah.
a potential buyer.
Yep.
And one thing I was going to ask Caitlin, you know, it sounds like you're a new company and there's only a couple of you in the company, but could you teach what you do to somebody else? And then if you only have 2 in the company, adding that third person would give you 50% more capacity of doing that work for, you know, doing boundaries. And my reason on coming and sitting in tonight, although I love the conversation and, you know, I haven't been on for a while, was to talk about growth. Because I think we're in a spot as a profession that we can hire anyone and teach them to do the work, and the work is still going to come. So growing it, and, you know, it kind of works in with this whole conversation, finding your niche, bringing someone on to teach them what you do, and then you're growing your capacity and the work is out there and it will come. That's my big push for, or it has been for the past couple of years.
Yeah. And I just, go ahead, Caitlin. No, go
Sorry,
ahead.
that may be somewhere that we can be in 5 years, but my husband and I, we're the ones who own this company. We were burned really bad a couple of years. Like when we started this company, our previous company that we worked for was going to close the doors on Monday. Big, successful, that everybody knew of company, had been around since the early 1900s, was going to close the doors on Monday. So to take the responsibility of being able to provide a livelihood for another person without knowing that that's something that we can do. So maybe in a few years that may be to a place that where we're at, but right now the goal is just to make sure that our company and our livelihood is salvageable, and not salvageable, but you know what I mean, sufficient, self-sufficient, all of that.
Good living.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. So what we do is we have a Facebook page, and we try and talk about why you need a survey. If any of the companies that we've worked with before are looking for broadmen or drafters or party chiefs or anything like that, to push that information out there and to continue to talk about, this is something that any young person can get into, that anybody can learn to do. If you like being outside, why not try surveying? There's a lot of surveying companies that'll let you do a summer internship if you're in high school, or if you're going into college, thinking about college, just out of high school, anything like that. I mean, that's where I got started, was doing internship programs. My husband started even younger than I did. And if you can start at a young age, then think about where you could be, considering that most of the surveyors in Missouri and in Kansas, and I'm not sure about other states, but in Missouri and Kansas, are going to retire in the next 10 to 15 years. There's not that many of us that are under 40.
Correct.
So
Salem, that might be one place where you and your husband could consider adding some staff on a temporary basis with an internship that would give you a chance to evaluate and train somebody that might come back and really work out and pay dividends for you. I know the company I just retired again for the second time. They do internships all the time with engineers and surveyors, and we've found some good staff that way.
That was something I had talked about in my last editorial, was basically, you know, kind of a call to all survey firms, right? You put out all these ads that everybody wants, you know, a 20-year surveyor with a 4-year bachelor's degree, and, you know, must have an LS, this, that, and the other, right? And that was kind of what to your point, Ben, was put out there, was just everybody needs to start looking and hiring that intern or entry level position and just start building them up. That's the only way we're going to build up the profession and get the bodies back in the profession. And then two, right, is pay a decent wage. As it is now, fast food's getting to be, $15 to $17 an hour. We're looking for, people to grow an industry that we need to become above that. Right. And so you got to start at 20, 21, $22 an hour, whatever the case may be. So it's on us as business owners to make that. And, like Caitlin says, maybe doesn't want to do that. And it's cool to be those two. I started off single 2008 and, now we're at 29 employees. And so it's all in whatever your comfort level is in that, but it's on us as business owners to grow the profession and bring in. I just had 2 new kids start today. It's 100% green. But we're going to take the investment in, like Landon's kind of talked about the same thing. If you follow him on his social media, take the hit as a business owner to train the profession. So I'll let you go for it, Ben.
I was just going to say there is a learning curve associated with bringing those people on. And if you are anticipating that growth, because if I had a ton of new clients hit me right now and I didn't have the capacity to do the work, I can't train somebody in 3 days to do that. So I have to hire somebody 3 months ahead of time so that I'm comfortable sending them out in the field. They're safe, they can do the work, they can take the shots, they've been trained by other crew chiefs, and then moving those people into a role that can help the company. But I know in 3 months, with the way that trends have been happening and with the reduction of the amount of surveyors out there, the demand is there. So if I hire people now, there will be a transition. I do have to have good rates that I'm expecting from clients to accommodate that growth. But then in 3 months, I can take the extra capacity that comes.
Yeah.
The other thing there that happens when you're training somebody green is you train them to do the job the way you want them to do it. You're not trying to teach them to unlearn bad habits and shortcuts that they picked up somewhere else. So you're in the long run, you're better off, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And what Landon said in the chat, right? Former baristas or janitors. And my famous one is we've hired 3 or 4 different ones early on from the tire shop, right? And so the tire shop, go to a tire shop and watch how hard that those boys work. So it's a great. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, if I could just throw out a comment here,
Yeah,
trying to
please.
go back to a little bit of what Trent's talking about. I've been in education for decades, and I've seen a lot of stuff with the profession as far as marketing and advertising, that type of stuff. Kind of throw out a question or an observation for those of you that started your own businesses and stuff. Where'd you learn how to do that? You kind of learned it on the job, didn't you? You were never really educated or trained in that type of stuff. Where did you learn your marketing? Well, you learn that kind of on the job and that type of thing.
Yeah.
We have this emphasis on four-year degree programs to get licensed as a land surveyor, but nowhere in there do we talk about, as part of that education, the non-technical type of stuff. You may get an econ course in their macro econ type of class, but what good does that do you as a practical tool? I mean, we need to start looking at not just bringing in younger people in their profession, but kind of equipping them with more of the tools that they'll need to succeed in that profession, not just the technical stuff, because that'll come.
Yeah.
You can always get trained on technology, but to try to run a business, as most of you are trying to do while you're trying to learn how to run a business, is a real tough thing to do. And you wind up making a lot of expensive mistakes along the way. We need to do a better education, upfront educating.
Jerry, I would agree with you 100. I agree with you 100%. There's a lot of us that are really, really, really good surveyors. There's not very many of us that are good businessmen.
Right.
Because we don't get that education out in the field looking for section corners. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
So you're right. We get it. We get it through the School of Hard Knocks, which it would be much better to include some of those courses in our engineering or our surveying college credit requirements than having to learn them the hard way, losing lots of money and and failing at things.
Yeah. Just Jerry, on that comment, just any ideas on what you thought? I mean, what can we do on that side of things? Any thoughts on, like, it's a, it needs to happen, but what X, Y, and Z needs to happen?
Well, part of what needs to happen is to have, when we start to put together programs like this, is not to let educators put together the programs.
Yeah.
Because for one thing, we're one step removed from reality.
Sure.
What I'm looking at here, and I see this group of people here, this is reality. And what you guys are talking about are those things where the skills, the life skills that you needed in order to succeed. Hell, even financial management and that type of thing. You know how poor college students are at financial management and that type of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we need to get the profession itself more involved in the actual designing of the curriculum and what needs to go into as far as applicable skills and that type of thing.
Okay.
You've been working with some of the stuff with NCEES with the licensing exams and that type of thing. And I look at some of the economics questions that they have and stuff on there, and a lot of that stuff's not rooted in reality in any shape or form. It's like it came out of an econ class that somebody cribbed some pages out of there, but it doesn't really make any difference. The students got the applicants got 4 choices to pick from. You got a 25% chance of guessing the right answer and move on to the next thing.
Yeah. And it's such a small percentage of the overall test as well. So,
yeah. But how big a percentage of that is of your guys' careers today?
Yeah. It's 50-60%, right? I mean, 80-90% to run a business for sure.
When you get into the professional ranks, when you get licensed as a surveyor, that kind of bumps you up into a management type of position. You're not going to be out there for the rest of your life looking for section corners out there because that's what you want to do for the rest of your life. You eventually move up to managing people, managing resources, managing people, jobs, advertising and all, marketing and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
You talk about, the realtors and stuff, their whole profession is marketing. That's what they do. Okay. So, we've always been on the back burner with respect to that kind of stuff. I'm sorry. I got
I love it.
Stuff, so
Peter, do you have a second to chime in? I know you said you were busy. You're kind of multitasking there, but I don't know if you had a second to chime in.
Hi, sorry.
No,
I'm just
you're fine.
leaving my office.
No, I love it. So just on that, I know you're working on establishing a training center, right? This is for Australia, for those that don't know, but
yes,
is that something like what Jerry just brought in? Is that something you're trying to implement in your school down there? Or are you just focusing on the technical side?
I'm sorry, I kind of missed everything that
No,
was
it's okay.
said before, but
Yeah.
basically, so I'm focusing on the educational side. So I'll I'm in another meeting. I'm sorry.
No, I know you were.
So
that's why
I'm basically I'm focusing on the theory side of it, and everybody who's going to be in my academy is going to be working in industry. So they will get their training on the job. They will need to complete certain exercises, tasks. They collect evidence of what they're doing. They sit assessments and all that sort of stuff. So we work to a national training package, which means that at the end of the year that they do their course, they get a certificate out of it.
Gotcha. Is there going to be any business aspect to it? That was kind of the main question. Are you going to have any business?
Okay, business. There's in the Cert 4, no. In the diploma, there's a little bit of it. There's one subject where it's like a project management type of subject where I bring into it, how they would manage a project, what would the costings be, all that kind of stuff. It's a bit of a struggle down here with that sort of stuff because a lot of the time our techies are just out in the field.
Okay.
And they have nothing to do with how the business actually works, which is a shame.
Got it. I know you had your hand up. Thanks, Peter. I was just curious on, like he says, in bringing in business classes, more business classes into the overall degree requirements or profession requirements. So
we are with our association and stuff. We do business academy. So we've got surveyors who come in and spend the year and come once a month or something and do all this sort of stuff. And it's also something that I'm looking at with the academy. Once I get the 2 courses up and running, we're looking at skill sets, upskilling, all that sort of stuff, so that we can do small things to get, just so that they have a bigger idea of how you would run a business or that kind of thing.
Okay, cool. Well, at least, like I say, they put a bigger emphasis on it as we kind of grow.
Yeah.
Few things if you guys follow along in the chat as well. There's some good stuff in there. Landon, I know you had your hand up earlier. I don't know if you still had the comment on that or not, but
Yeah, I just wanted to pile on Jerry.
go for it.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I wanted to share some of my experience that'll kind of back up what Jerry said, and then maybe share a couple resources if you're like me. I got 0 business development marketing training as a land surveyor. Like, I worked at my first company for 12 years and got like 0 training. Like, I was running a 10-person department, and this is just the kind of company that had some good long-term relationships. So work would just come in the door, and there's companies like that. So like, I got taught how to write a scope and do a fee estimate in a spreadsheet. And like, that was it. Like, that was the limit of my marketing knowledge. And so what happened to me is I went to work at another company, and the landscape architect there was a great marketer. And so like, my first exposure to what actual marketing looked like came from a landscape architect, and I would just happen to be fortunate to go to work with that guy. And so then what happened is, my next job, I got a job where they wanted me to do a bunch of sales and business development. And you guys are going to laugh at me, but like, I went and bought a book on sales. And like, so like, I used to commute once a month from Northern California to Southern California for business meetings. And like, I got those books on audio and like, just taught myself, what is prospecting? What is a sales funnel? How do you hone your marketing message? How do you segment your market? Nobody taught me that. Like, I had to go learn all that stuff, right? So one of the things that we're trying to do at RH, I've got a couple guys that are LSITs. They're working on their LS. One of them just passed the national. I was just talking to one of them like literally 3 days ago, and I said, look, they're both very smart technical surveyors. I said, look, they both would like to own shares in our company at some point. We want to do that for them. But I was talking to one of the guys that's in that position. I said, look, you want to, like, we're gonna be giving people shares at some point in the next 3 to 5 years, probably, we hope. I was like, you got to be able to drag a job in the door to qualify for that, right? It's like, what do you have to figure out? It's not just about being licensed. You got to figure out how to bring that work in the door. And like, we'll teach you. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you generate leads? How do you turn leads into contracts? How do you nurture long-term relationships? What's the difference between a good client and a bad client? How can you tell? What's the difference between a good job and a bad job? How can you tell? And so I told him, I was like, look, we don't expect you to go out and be landing. That's not what, like, you're an LS, you've been licensed for a couple of years, and like, you want to be a partner, like, 3 or 4 times a year, you got to drag a job in the door, like, so how do you do that? But here's what we're going to do. We're going to teach them. Like, I'm not going to do like I got done, right? Like, this is part of your job, go do it. Like, I was clueless when I first was told, like, I had to go bring work in the door. I had no idea how to do that. I had to teach myself how to do it. So anyways, Jerry, I agree with you 100%. Like, we do a horrible freaking job of teaching people how to do that. I don't know if we're the only profession that does that. I don't know if there's, maybe civil engineers do it too, but like, yeah, man, we do such a crappy job. And then one of my partners is an MBA. He went and got his MBA. Like, he went and got his MBA so he could learn a bunch of that stuff. Like, he didn't get taught how to do that. So
one of the differences between us, you mentioned civil engineers and stuff, is a civil engineer doesn't work with a private client. like surveyors generally do. I mean, civil engineers generally work for a firm or for the public agency and that type of thing. But a couple of the questions that came up in chat there, how do we make people aware of stuff?
Yeah.
I just pulled up, this is the Sunday paper, the back of the want ads. You probably can't make this out, but the realtors have their faces all over the Sunday paper all the time. So you can see all these hundreds of realtors out. This is from a local paper. I looked in the yellow pages, you know, the Dubuque yellow pages here. There's a solid page of realtor listings. There are 2 surveyors listed. There are 15 pages, count them, 15 pages of attorneys that are listed there. What kind of marketing do? We talk about the land transaction, you know, for a conveyance. Accepted expenses that people just routinely roll over for: the realtor, title insurance costs, closing costs, and maybe an attorney to examine and abstract the title. The unnecessary cost in there is a surveyor. But how many of those guarantee or provide some surety to title or boundary location? People don't know that. We've not advertised that, you know, in all these years that we've been doing this and that type of thing. So when I taught, I'd always get a call every semester without fail. And I use this in my ethics class. Without fail, somebody would call and say, do you have a class that wants a project? And I'd say, well, what's the project? They said, well, I have some property to survey. And I'd always try to sit down and explain to them, well, you know, really, we can't do this because we're not licensed. These are students and there's no guarantee and all this kind of stuff. But it got to a point where it fell on deaf ears. And I took the tackle all of us up from that point, from one point on. And I say, sure, explain the problem to me. And while they're explaining, I'd be typing on my keyboard just to make noise in the background. So it sounded like I was figuring things out. And after they explained it all to me, I said, what is your property worth, ballpark? And if they'd say, well, $150,000, I said, well, look, at 5%, that's $7,500. So we'll take a $7,500 donation to our university foundation to do that for you. And they'll go, well, I just talked to a surveyor who only wanted $2,000 to do that. Well, $2,000 was too much for them, but 5% is not too much to pay for a realtor to sell their property. So why is it that they'll hold a realtor in higher esteem than they will a surveyor who will actually go out there and locate their boundaries? What kind of job have we done selling our profession or advertising our profession if we can't even convince them that and one comment made about title insurance, it specifically excludes things from a title insurance policy that can be shown on the ground by a proper survey. Title insurance doesn't insure title for the person that's buying the property. It insures it for the mortgage lending institution. Do people realize that? No, they don't realize that. It's title insurance. It's like if you run your land into a tree and dent it, you'll get paid for it, you know, like their car. I'm sorry, I'm getting really hyped up on this.
I love it. No, you're
but
good.
this is something we've been arguing with in the profession for 30, 40 years, and we've never addressed it.
I know.
We don't put a sign out, you know, when somebody said our trucks out there driving around, realtors routinely stick up bulletin board, billboards, they stick up signs in front of the houses that are for sale. They're constantly out there with advertising and stuff. We're not doing that.
That is the perfect
totally on
segue.
target. Totally on target, Jerry.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect segue because I'll skip over the other two because we're coming down to the last ones. My next one was going to be talking about, you know, the opposite side of realtors, right, is the attorneys. And so we were going to have a discussion on that, but I won't bring that up. And then Landon kind of hit on it earlier about presentations, right? Going to title companies or going to commercial real estate people and just doing these lunch and learns. That's another great way to just get our name out as a community partner, right? And then educate them as well. So the last one, which everybody who kind of knows me knows that branding is which kind of rolls into what Jerry was just talking about. Branding is my number one thing that I love. So I put my name and logo on pretty much anything, including I just got my shipment of 500 die-cast NASCARs. If you guys remember last spring, I sponsored a NASCAR. So mine's, we sponsor that stuff. The other one I do that I'd like almost, any surveying company in the country to do, and that's sponsor the home run at your minor league baseball team, right? That's something that I do. And so, let's measure the last home run hit by blah, blah, blah. And it's sponsored by Diamondback Land Surveying. And so it ties the surveying name to a measurement. And so that's why I love sponsoring the home run at Little League or at minor league games. One, it's a price point that's affordable for most survey firms, right? And so I would love to be able to do that because that just shows the community stuff, community partners, getting the name and the surveying brand out there. Another one for me is even just for those that want to start their business, right? Have the word land surveying in your business. That everybody's been making a push for the geomatics and just being a big name, branding name with geomatics, but our licensing board doesn't license geomatics. It doesn't say geomatics license on there. It says land surveying license. So let's continue to kind of brand the survey profession that way. I'm big on billboards as well. So just all of these things are reasonable if you work with a lot of your advertising agencies and or just reach out and create your own contacts. Sometimes the ad agencies like to throw some additional markups on there. So just kind of reach out and get your own stuff. But I'm big on that kind of stuff. We've talked about it before, even just sponsoring a little league team, right? Having your logo on the back of a little league team, because that logo is worn throughout the entire town after they're done. They go grocery shopping, they go to lunch, they go everywhere afterwards. So Nolan, if you had a car or a picture, you could probably share your screen. Nolan wrapped his entire truck. I have logos all over my truck. Nolan took it a step further and wrapped the entire thing, and we love it. So
I can get to that in a second why, but keep going.
No, go for it.
So the reason I took it the step I did is because it looks, and sorry I can't say why I'm doing this, but it looks exactly like my business card.
Absolutely.
I want people to look at my business card while it's driving, basically. I don't want any confusion. So keep going while I'm trying to pull it up. But
no, I love that. Right. It goes back to that first impression, right? And that's we talked about it, hit on it earlier. I will tell you a lot of all of our field trucks, that is the guys' office. And so I let them do whatever they want to their trucks, right? That's their office. They spend 10, 12 hours a day in those trucks, so whether it's tires and wheels and rims and, anything to make their truck look good for their office, no different than we decorate our offices. It only enhances the image. There you go. It only enhances
awesome.
the company image. And therefore even the professional.
Do I even have a
image,
card?
Yeah. See, so
No, we went loud with it.
No, it's beautiful.
That's
I love
gorgeous.
it.
Which works. All the other land surveyors around here are very subtle.
Yeah.
You'd drive by them and you wouldn't notice it, where everybody,
Exactly.
I mean, people that I work with at my job that work for a big corporation, they don't know my husband personally, but they have seen his truck. I know that that's him.
Yeah. Wait
I
till,
want to stick out like a sore thumb. I want someone to call me first because they saw my truck. I don't care how obnoxious it looks.
Yeah.
I want them to see me driving.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And I love it. And so
Couldn't have done that in the 70s.
no, yes. Well, yeah. And that goes right. It goes back to what we kind of talked about earlier, George. Like
Nolan, you're on target. I think you're well on your way to real success.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wait till there's 10 of those driving around. That's that's the best part is like you said earlier. Right?
Smaller.
Oh, BS. You guys are gross. So what about so those are kind of the things that I kind of throw out. Was anybody else work on something else, do something different?
For God's sakes, don't have your field crew look like they've been living out in the woods for the last month or so when they show up on a job site and that type of thing.
Yeah.
For goodness sakes, look at pictures of the old surveyors back in the 30s and 40s and even before that. They used to dress a little bit more professionally.
Correct. And that was, Kent had brought it up earlier, the badge of honor, right? And one of my guys was in here when Kent, you were saying that, and he pulled up his t-shirt and it had his t-shirt on, and above that was his sweatshirt with a different logo and the hat on top of that, right? And so, badge of honor is for sure. I love it. Go for it, Landon.
I just wanted to add a couple things since you were talking about branding a little bit. Some things that we've tried to work on. So I'll give you two quick things. One is, so we have a company color scheme.
Yeah.
We have
Sure.
a company logo. We have standard fonts. So we have a couple standard fonts. The logo and fonts and colors go from our website to our marketing material to our CAD standards. And we're working on, CAD consistency across work products is something that we'll probably always be working on. But, when you see a Record survey or an Alta survey, you can tell it's an RH survey from the fonts and the color schemes. So I think that's really important. That's something a lot of surveyors don't do a good job on. The other thing I would talk about, I think Caitlin mentioned this a little bit, but so before you go spend a bunch of time on marketing, I think it's important to know your niche, know your market niche, understand your differentiators, what makes you different from your competitors, and then understand how you provide value. So what I liked about Caitlin, you're a rock star because we figured the same thing out, right? Like I'll never compete on price. There's too many ways to cut corners, and California's record survey law makes it really hard to compete on price if you're trying to follow the law. So one of the things we've learned, like Caitlin said, is there's other kinds of value, right? There's convenience, there's speed, right? There's different kinds of value. And so I think figure out how you're going to provide value, so we're like Caitlin, we do 5 to 10 day turnaround on most of our work products, which works really good for, the market that we're in. So I tell people, like, we work for people that are in a hurry. If you're not in a hurry, you probably shouldn't call us, right? If you can wait, I just tell people all the time, if you can wait 3 months, here's a number of a friend of mine, call, he'll be half the price.
Yeah.
If you can wait. So I just think about, colors, logos, fonts, and then before you go do a bunch of marketing work, you got to know who you are as a company and what, why are you different? Like we're in Oakdale, like a population 10,000 town. Like there's like 7 survey companies in Oakdale. We have like the highest per capita number of survey companies in the world. I don't know why, but I know exactly what makes us different from every one of those other firms. And I can explain that to you in a sales pitch. Like if you can't tell somebody what makes you different from the company down the street, like don't do your marketing yet. You need to figure that out first. And I think that's part of the brand too, Trent, is knowing what. So anyways, yeah, great.
No, I love it. Kent, you had it. Go for it.
All right. Got away from marketing there for a minute. My ADD kicked in.
I get it.
What's going on here?
I get it.
So the only things I wanted to add, like from a professional branding perspective, I mean, Trent is the king. There's no doubt about it. I've known Trent for a handful of years now. And every single time I've been around this guy, he's got Diamondback Land Surveying logos on. I mean, everything. It's everything. You play golf with the guy, his golf bag is covered with Diamondback Land. He runs these marathons. He's always got Diamondback Land Surveying shirts on. The guy is the king of professional branding. If you have any questions about that, he is the guy to go to. Couple other things I just want to add real quick. We talk about it on the Geoholics all the time. Add value, make friends. I'll tell you what, if you implement that simple saying, add value, make friends to your professional life and your personal life for that matter, trust me, the quality of life personally and professionally is going to increase tenfold. And the bottom line is people want to work with people that they like, people they want to hang out with. You have to establish that kind of connection. Get involved with your respective professions. And what I mean by that, coming on here, being a part of Mentoring Mondays, being on podcasts, doing presentations, whether it's at your kid's school or, for a realtor or for an attorney or for whoever, just get out there and do that stuff. Get your name out there. And most importantly, be involved with your local, regional, and even national, survey organizations, and get involved with like other local organizations, whether they're kind of engineering related, architects, builders, what have you. Get involved with that stuff. I know all this stuff takes time and it's not always easy, but really the best marketing, in my opinion, become an expert in your field. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time, but it's also an investment. It's an investment, becoming an expert. And the only other thing I'll add is be humble.
Yeah, no, that's good. One quick comment on that come from that would be, a lot of these different, like you say, these associations all have luncheons and dinners, right? And so make sure you get to those different association meetings and network with inside those breakfasts or dinners or whatever the case may be. So go for it, Stacy. Oh, there you go.
Yep. I really like what you guys are saying about branding. I have been thinking a lot about it. But especially the only thing that I have been doing that's actually worked well is this past summer, I have been, number one, trying to stay with the owner as long as I can, answer all the questions, tell them what I'm doing, just be extremely involved, spend that extra hour or 2 hours with them. And then when the survey is done, I have been contacting them back and asking them to write a Google review. Okay. So what happens is when you get Google reviews, your search engine goes to the top. So when people type in land surveying, Alaska or whatever, my name comes up first. So that's actually helped a lot. But I like the approach of what you guys are talking. I just I can't put money into marketing, right? I'm not big enough to put money into that. But Google and Yelp and all of them, they do a good job. At least they answer the phone.
I was gonna, yeah, no, of course. And I would say I started early on with even radio ads. So everything I do on any kind of thing is sports talk, news talk, and then anything I do on TV has to be during a live sporting event. So that way no one can fast forward anything. So you got to pick things that, have a listener base that, no one can fast forward or go through. So Jen, go for it, Jen. You're good. Just no mic. Oh, hold on. Mic problem. How about now?
One more try.
Ah, there you go. Now you got it. Go for it.
Good. Okay. That was the first one I tried and it didn't work.
Love it.
So I could touch on like a lot of the things you all have talked about tonight from a little bit different perspective, because while I'm still in school, this last year, I've been doing some informational interviews to see what kind of firm I might want to work for, what kind of work y'all are doing, kind of get a direction going. And I started with a couple of like direct recommendations of people to talk to, but then I went with the list of the Proprietors Council for Melcy. So there's your connection with the professional organization. And then I went down all of their websites or all of their names and crossed off immediately the ones that didn't have any website at all that came up with Google. So not talking to those people. I crossed off the small firms that looked like they didn't have job listings or they weren't saying, hey, we're always looking for somebody. And I crossed off a couple of large firms where the way that they presented their values and like who they are as a firm, I felt like wouldn't be a good fit just right off the bat. So there's like, okay, there's some more marketing there that's playing into it. So it could be also not just getting your clients, but getting new employees and people who are interested in working for you.
Yeah, great. Very good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there was one more point to make, but you get the idea.
No, and that's, that's something like, Jen's faithful. She's almost on, she's only maybe missed a couple, but that's something we've talked about in the past, right? Interviewing, as a potential employee, interviewing the company like Jen says. So very good point. So you're not only marketing clients, you're marketing potential employees, which is great to add on there. Caitlin, you did have your hand up. Anything else you wanted to add to that or no? You done? Okay, no worries. Anybody want to kind of add some extra stuff? we kind of hit some of the topics, breezed over a couple other ones, and hit some ones that weren't even on the radar. But overall, I think it's different format than we typically have on Mentoring Mondays. But go for it, Landon.
I would just say I'm still figuring a lot of this out. So
right.
It was great to listen to everybody tonight. And I'm always puzzled as to how much of it's a slog to get work. It just is, to get work that pays well from good clients. That's what I found. But I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or if it's just hard. And it may be that we're a new business. We've only been around about not quite 24 months, but I've been surprised at how hard it is to convince people the value of a good survey. But when I feel like giving up, what I tell myself is part of the reason why people in the real estate industry don't realize the value of a good survey is because surveyors are crappy marketers. Mm-hmm. So I don't fix that problem by stopping the marketing, right? It only gets better if more surveyors like me and Trent and everybody else, if we keep preaching that message, right? Like my experience has been, most people in California have no idea how much property has never been surveyed in its current configuration, or how much property is bought and sold on a daily basis. I'm not talking about residential, I'm talking about commercial properties bought and sold on a regular basis without a survey. There's a huge ignorance there. And I blame surveyors for that. That's our fault, right? I can't blame the realtors or the appraisers or the civil engineers. That's surveyors not doing a good job educating people about why they need to get a good survey. I think if more people understood that, we would do more boundary surveys. So anyways, that's just a thought, but I really appreciate it. And if you guys know something, if I'm doing something obviously wrong, you're welcome to message me or email me. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. And, I think one of the things that, like George said earlier, he's been part of NOW since 1978. We've archived every publication that's ever come out of the state of Nevada. In next year will be our 50th anniversary. And like the topics we've talked about tonight have all been in there since 1973 to 2023. Right. And so we have to find a way to just basically stop being hot air and actually doing something about it, and which is nice with people like Nolan or like myself, and one of these where we're kind of breaking the trends of what was done in the past and helping kind of promote the profession and where we need to go. And so that part I think is when you go to your conferences, I know Nolan just had theirs a couple of weeks ago, but when we go to these conferences, it's making a push to not just keep talking hot air and actually do something about it. Somebody needs to do something about it, which is no different than, here's, Kent doing podcasts and getting the profession out there, Mentoring Mondays, which is, taking another step to just finding a new way to mentor people. So we just need to stop talking and doing is what really needs to happen. Kent, you had your hand up, go for it.
Yeah, one last thing, and I mentioned it earlier. We had this gentleman by the name of Brian Owens on the podcast here a few weeks ago, and he wrote a book, and it's basically perspective-based safety, and it takes the way we look at safety and drills down to the root of the problem. And basically, what it revolves around is habits. Okay, so I can kind of spin that around and look at it like perspective-based marketing, right?
Yeah,
and I challenge everybody to think about this and change the perception of the optics when it comes to a surveyor. Because let's face it, when people think of a land surveyor, the perception's not great. Right. And and let's face it, lots of times when you see a surveyor out in the field, or even a lot of surveyors even that have been around for a long time, and I could go on and tell stories after stories. But the optics aren't always good, right? When I look at the faces that I see on this, Mentoring Mondays, a lot of, professionals, and that's what we need to do. We need to focus on elevating ourselves as professionals. And when we do that, change the optics, it's just another way of marketing.
Yeah, no, it's good. Go for it, George.
Kent, you're right. I had the opportunity many years ago to do a presentation on ALTA surveys to the local Realtors Association. There were probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 realtors present at this presentation. And I was amazed at the deer in the headlights looks I got, because they had zero idea of what they were asking for and what the product they were going to get was going to be for their client. And it's on us. It's on us to do this education. I mean, if we don't do it, no one else is going to do it for us. And we've already proven that over the last 30 or 40 years. We've got to take this on ourselves to do it. And unfortunately, like I told Nolan, I'm trying to get off lists. He's trying to get on them.
Exactly.
I'm trying to wave goodbye, and I still get an email saying, "Hey, can you do this?" I'm going, "No, I don't know." But at any rate, it's on us to do that. And you know, I'm here for another couple of years with a license at least, and I'm going to do everything I can to promote this profession.
Yeah. Because
I think that's our only way to really improve the situation. We've got to do it. It's on us.
Yep. Absolutely. Love it. Just Jen, before I go to you real quick, you had the comment in the chat about, does anybody hire a consultant to come in and set up their marketing? So I know there's a few different firms represented on here. I will tell you, I hire somebody to handle more of the graphics side of my stuff. You still have to be able to, as the surveyor, have the kind of the expertise and the wording that goes in that marketing. But who on here, Dave, what do you guys, do you have a full marketing department, or how is that handled?
Well, we do. We have a marketing department that actually does everything for us over at Loomis. But you know, when the last firm I was at, we did a lot of it ourselves, and you know, made those calls and made those visits and presentations and such.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say some of the bigger firms that do a lot of SOQ type work, right? You're gonna have more of your,
correct.
Your bigger marketing departments with inside some of those companies. Kent Alta probably has a full marketing.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, exactly. Ben, you're probably you're more in my range. So what do you guys do?
Our company has 120 employees, so we have 3 ladies that help us with marketing and pre-qualifications.
Got it.
But we haven't mentioned Elaine and her geospatial marketers, which is good stuff. And for somebody that is trying to do it on their own and learn on their own, getting help from someone like Elaine is helpful. Yeah,
and I'll throw Elaine stuff in there. I had when we first jumped on, I said, too bad it's midnight in London. Otherwise, we'd had Elaine on, but she would have been great to have a conversation with. But so it's kind of mixture, Jen, just to answer that question in the chat. But go ahead with your next one.
Okay, is it working again?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So I have like one other point with for job seekers that you could connect with, and that's to get involved with anything that can like support your like your vision of your firm and your values. Like there's a compact in Boston that's for closing the wage gap, and there's at least one survey firm that I've spoken to, and that's on that list, and they are at the top of my list or near the top of my list. And that's a big part of it.
Nice. Yeah.
So, and I will put a link in there too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, great point.
See what I'm talking
about. That's a great point. And then Tyler, that's a good question too. I'll say some of our phone calls, if it was a referral, they'll start with the call with, "Hey, I got your number from XYZ," right? Or something like that. But outside of that, I don't typically ask either, but that's anybody kind of jump in there and say, "Hey, how did you hear about us?" when you, as part of your phone conversation, or no?
So Trent, I always ask.
Yeah.
And I would say, I'm gonna give away some of my trade secrets here, but I would say 90% of our new business comes from the website. So what I tell people is, especially if you're a new business, like every dollar you spend on that website is going to return you $100. And I think that part of that's just, I mean, I know what I do. The first time I need something is I Google. Like that's how most people today find stuff. So I think your web presence is really important, especially if you're a newer firm. You know, probably Trent he just gets work through his network, right? But if you're a new firm, the website's really important. And then the other thing is, so we have this little joke that we tell around our office, which is, if you want to be successful in the surveying business, don't be a jerk and answer your phone.
Right.
So, you know, a lot of work, we get work from clients whose other surveyor just won't answer the phone, which is really stupid.
Yeah, we've been saying that the last couple of years. Yeah,
so anyways, so just being available, you know, is half the battle. One thing to answer Jen's other question too, I just let you know. So we're a small company. We've got between 10 and 15 people, but we already hired a full-time marketing person. That's pretty unusual for a firm our size, but that's how important we know that is. It's super important. And I think especially, you know, in the old days, you could kind of good old boy network, word of mouth stuff, but like that is just not the world we live in anymore. So I think it really helps to have, when you can afford it, it really helps to have some professional help on the marketing side. But
yeah, no, great points. I see Nolan. Go for it, Nolan.
I think no matter whether you've been doing this for 10 months like me or 15 years like you should always ask how did you hear? Because you always want to be working on your marketing or making it better, and you never know what is working or not working. I'll give an example by the most random one ever. I had a client call me and we had a whole full-blown conversation. My last line was, "So how did you hear about me?" Because I don't want to start with that. I usually want to end with that. Yeah. I want to know what he wants to use me for first. And it was simple as this. I recorded a survey. I mean, I had to, because I set a pin just because of my survey, or just because of Indiana laws. So just for me setting a pin and that guy wanting to know who's doing quality work and checking surveys got me a job. So you never know what's going to work. So always ask.
Yeah. And just to put one point out there too, a lot of my marketing is just kind of branding and logo recognition. It's not so much, I'm not looking for, you know, it to, you know, an ROI on it type of thing. It's literally for, you know, branding and logo recognition, that community partner and that kind of stuff. So yeah, but no, it's a good point. I like ending the conversation. That's a great way, Nolan. We're coming up to our normal kind of hour and a half, but last 5 minutes of anybody want to kind of add in some extra stuff? Ben, you're unmuted there. You got something?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay. All right. No worries.
Enjoying the ride.
That's right. That's right. Let's go. Anybody else want to chime in on something we didn't hit in the next couple of minutes? If not, we'll, some of us got to eat dinner. Some of us got to go to bed.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate all the good advice.
Yeah, of course, guys. Awesome. All right. We'll end it with that. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks. See you guys.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Kent. Bye, guys.